Hey, it's Rick from For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. I got a great story. I was about, I'm going to guess 18, maybe 19, probably 18. And I was working at a camp called Circle Square Ranch. And this one particular day, a tornado came through the camp. And at the same time the tornado came through, we had no warning that this was going to happen. Of course, who could have warning back then? Like, we're talking about the 80s, I think. Back then, about tornadoes coming through, maybe early 90s. The senior staff, they were away from the camp, all on like a 1.5 hour meeting. And then the oldest teenagers and a couple of part-timers were there at the camp to watch the kids. There were about 100, 150 kids there. And this is when the tornado came through. And so it's the scene where teenagers are having to step up into roles of leadership over themselves, other teenagers, and children, in order to protect all these kids from the tornado. We brought them all to the basement. We sheltered them in place. We were there watching. We didn't have a clue what was going on because most of us are city kids coming up out of Toronto area into a camp, into the woods, and none of us, we know how to ride buses. We don't really know how to ride horses and do stuff. We're leaning on the senior staff to help us as much as we're helping the kids, right? And so we're sheltering in place, watching the clouds roll, watching the sky turn green, listening to the noise, seeing everything blow around, and wow, it was such an awesome moment. Okay, I start with that because this week I'm watching the chaos at the White House, and it reminded me of being in that tornado, and I'm watching the numbers rise in Ontario and looking at the world as it's going right now as we're waiting for the vaccines to come in and wanting the vaccines to come in early, and it looks like we're in the middle of a tornado. And I can't solve the world's problems, right? And I can't solve your problems, right? I can only work on me, and you can only work on you. There are some people who have the power to change nations and to change provinces, but for most of us, the power that we have to change is the power that we have over ourselves. It's self-agency, self-efficacy. And so that's what I want to focus on today. But more than that, rather than talking about my personal agency, I want to talk about you. I want to ask you how you're doing. How do you respond in moments of unrest like this? What's a decent response to the tornadoes that you face? Here's the topic that I have for today. Be the peace that you need. I want to read from John chapter 16, verses 31 to 33, talking about being the peace that we all need and you being the peace that you need to be experiencing. Jesus asked, "Do you finally believe? But the time is coming. Indeed, it's now here when you will be scattered, each one going his own way, leaving me alone. Yet I'm not alone because the Father is with me. I have told you all of this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I have overcome the world." Hey kids, keep your eyes on the background for all the characters that you see hidden back there. And also please remember to watch this week's episode of Connect HQ. Here's the point that I'm trying to make today, and I'd really like some discussion this week on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever it is you're seeing this video. Please try to connect with us. Here's the point. Be the peace that you need. I can't understand America as only an American can, so I can't truly understand what's happening with the White House this past week. But I do understand what it means to be in the center of a tornado. I can understand those smaller moments where I've been at the center of a crisis and I've had to lead people through crisis. That's what I can understand. So as best as I can manage, here is my contribution to the world's unrest today. As Jesus was heading to the cross, he knew the disciples were about to experience the greatest trial and sorrow of their lives up until that point. Because up until that point, Jesus is doing most of the leading, Jesus is doing most of the connecting, they're doing a lot of following, and Jesus releasing them and really allowing them a good time of leadership because he's protecting them a lot. But he's about to go to the cross and they're about to be on their own. So he gives them a heads up about the trials and the sorrows that they're about to face. And he gives them a gift to help them through it. So the disciples had their own tornado that they're living through. I had my tornado, and we always have our own versions of tornadoes that we're living through. And Jesus is saying, okay, for all of your tornadoes, for all of your White House moments, for all the stuff that's going on, for all the unrest, for all the lockdowns as the numbers increase in Ontario and we have to shelter in place one more time, we have to stop our socializing. For all of those moments, Jesus says, I have a gift. Here's what I believe is the gift that God is giving you to help you through the trials that you personally face and the trials that the world is facing together. 2 points for this video about being the peace that you need to be. First of all, we're going to face things that take away our peace. The text says, Jesus himself says, here on earth you will have many sorrows. When the tornado came through the camp, there were only summer staff there. And watching the teens, me as a teen, watching myself and me watching my friends as a teen, being in a tornado to protect, about 150 kids, that's its own kind of tornado, right? When the leadership that everybody's relying on is not there at the moment, it's no fault of theirs. I'm not pointing any fingers. It's just a bad scenario. Tornado comes in, crashing in around us, while the senior staff, the full-time staff are in a meeting off-site. That's a tornado all on its own. And this is a tornado that the disciples were just about to face as well, as Jesus is just about to go to the cross. So on his way to the cross, Jesus told us that we are going to face, his disciples first and also us in extension, that we are going to face lots of trials, lots of sorrows. He knew that his disciples were all going to fall away. He knew that his disciples were going to handle his moment on the cross very, very poorly. He knew that. So before we look at the gift that will help you through your trials, let's start with Jesus' knowledge of the disciples and Jesus' knowledge of you and me. He knows how we typically handle a crisis. Jesus knew the disciples would fall away. Let's start with the disciples, and then we're going to talk about you and I. And he still loved them and already decided to receive them back. He knew they were going to fall away and already decided, listen, I got a plan for that. I'm going to receive you back. Jesus knows that you sometimes respond poorly to the trials you face. Not all the time, but sometimes we respond very poorly to the trials that we face. And it may even come close to you and I looking like we've totally fallen away. He still loves you, and he's already decided to receive you back. He's got your back, Jack. Problems are a normal part of life. We all know this, and God knows it too. Your trials are not a trial for God. However you respond in any of the trials that you experience, God still loves you. Even if it looks like you've failed, even if you've bailed on God, he's already decided to receive you back. How are you responding to the lockdowns? How are you responding to the crisis that's going on around you? If you're failing, I just want you to know that God's got your back. He already knew that you are going to do poorly if you're doing poorly. If you're doing great, then that's just great. If you've messed up, God already knew that you're going to mess up, and he's got a plan for it. So right now, if you need to take a moment, whisper a prayer under your breath or pause the video just to reconnect with him. If you did poorly in a recent trial, ask for forgiveness and reconnect. It's going to be okay. Just reconnect. He loves you. You can't have done so poorly in a trial that God wouldn't receive you back, that God's not going to forgive you, that God's not going to love you. God's got a plan. If you failed, God already knew that you were going to fail. Just reach out to him, receive the forgiveness that you need, pick yourself back up, because God's got a lot of grace for you to do that. Lean into God's forgiveness, lean into God's love for you, and give yourself a do-over. Forgive yourself, okay? Just breathe easy a little bit, just relax a little bit, get yourself back up, and let's go for it all over again. God loves you. He's picking you back up. He's giving you a second start or a third start or a fourth start. He's giving you as many do-overs as you need. Okay, secondly, about being the peace that you need to be. To be the peace that you need to choose courage. Okay, this is the catalyst to receiving the gift that God has given you to respond in moments of crisis and how to handle tornadoes. The text says, Jesus himself says, have peace in me. And to access that peace, Jesus says, take heart. On the way to the cross, Jesus gave his disciples a gift. It's the gift of peace. But he also lets them know that it's not going to come easily. Peace is obtained through courage. Jesus says, take heart. In the NLT, which I really like to use, the text says, take heart. But some of us may lose the definition. We're not really sure what take heart may mean. So let's look at the NASB. The NASB translates it, take courage. We're really talking about taking courage. Post-tornado, when I was a teenager going through that tornado event, I spent a few days out in the in the roads and stuff leading into and out of the camp and around the camp with a gas-powered chainsaw, having the time of my life, just cutting away all of these fallen trees and thick fallen branches just to make sure that parents were able to get in and out of camp in order to come and get their kids, make sure that they're okay, and helping however I could. I just loved spending time, like I'm 18 maybe, I don't know, 17, 18, I don't know, with a gas-powered chainsaw. The first time, like I'm from Toronto, I have never used any kind of power tools like that in my life. This is the very first time, and so I was out in the woods just with this, rah! I loved it so much, so that I had a tremendous amount of peace, and I was having a lot of fun post-tornado. Finding peace after a crisis isn't so hard. Finding peace in the middle of a crisis, now that takes a lot of work. It's easy to experience peace outside of a trial, but inside the trial, inside the tornado, that's an entirely different story. And I think that's what Jesus is telling the disciples here in this passage. In the middle of trials, there is a tension between the peace that Jesus wants to give us as a gift and the chaos and the anger and the big emotional reactions that the trial wants to give us as a gift. And in between these two gifts, the gift which isn't really a gift of chaos and emotional turmoil and stuff that the trial wants to give you, and the peace that Jesus wants to give you, in the middle of those two gifts is that catalyst of the choice to take courage. Will you choose to take courage to embrace the gift of peace, or will you choose to abandon courage or not even consider courage and embrace the gift that the trial has to give you, which is no gift at all? It actually makes things much worse. Here's why courage makes a lot of sense. First, let's think about eternity. It takes courage to stand your ground, knowing that whatever the outcome, Jesus is true to his word, and eternity is yours. Even if our life goes to pot right now, we still have eternity to look forward to, and nothing is going to take that away from us. But it takes courage to hold on to eternity. Now, let's talk about tomorrow. It takes courage to stand your ground, knowing that your tomorrow may actually be worse than your today, but that Jesus has enough grace to meet you where you are, whatever your life looks like and how much your life changes. Regardless of what a trial may try to change in your life, Jesus is in total control of outcome. And if you're a follower of Jesus, if you believe in Jesus and you're faithfully following him, then your outcome is secure. It looks like an eternal friendship with God that you get to experience through this life, and you get to experience forever as you hold on to Jesus and as Jesus restores all things at the end of time. Just before heading to the cross, Jesus gave his disciples a gift. He told them that he's giving them peace, experiential peace for the normal day-to-day routine, experiential peace for the trials that we all face all the time, and also spiritual peace between God and people. So there's no more animosity, there's no more struggle, there's no more confusion. There's a good friendship between God and people when we choose to believe in Jesus and follow him. But to receive that gift is harder than just removing the wrapping paper, like on a Christmas gift or a birthday gift. To take hold of the gift of peace, that requires us to embrace courage. Courage is the catalyst for the peace that you need in your life. Can you have the courage to believe that God has your best interest in mind? Can you have the courage to believe that whatever happens, you have eternity with God? Can you have the courage to believe that regardless of what your tomorrow looks like, God's grace will meet you tomorrow, even if your life looks totally different than it does today, and maybe even a little worse or a lot worse? Can you have the courage to believe that exercising your self-control will yield a better result than panicking through a crisis. If you can believe that, then you've just stepped up onto a different plane, and you can now function as a leader of other people and as a leader of yourself. You're a leader by modeling the gift of peace that Jesus has for everyone. So embrace the peace that you need and model that peace so that other people can also experience the peace that they need as well. So that's what my point today is. Be the peace that you need, and you be that by embracing courage. Courage is a catalyst that moves you between experiencing chaos and experiencing peace. Please choose courage and be a modeler of peace as you embrace the peace that Jesus has for you as a gift through every trial, every crisis, every tornado that you experience, and model that peace to the other people so that they can also experience peace through you. So that's it from me to you for now. I'd really love to connect, really love to talk about this. If you want to connect, if you need to connect, I want to connect with you. I am an extrovert in the middle of a lockdown. I want to connect. So if you want to connect with me, I would love that. Reach out, send me a personal message, dialogue with me on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever it is you happen to see this, or even request a Zoom link to one of our next gatherings. Listen, if you're not able to connect with your existing community right now, if you feel alone right now, if you want to just connect with other people, we'd love to have you connect with us. Even if it's just short term, that's okay. We just love connecting, and I'd really love you to be here for you, to support you, to remind you that God loves you, to remind you that you're not alone, to remind you that there are other people as well that you can build community with. There are other friends for you available. It's just a new way of connecting with people. So reach out. I'd love to be connected with you. For community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others, also with God. See you next time.